And now, an 8th special presentation.
Today on Art Beat Nation, we discover the true story behind an Academy Award-winning biopic.
I was not aware of the story until Frank got in touch with me, and he sent me the book.
Meet a couple bound together by art.
After we got married, we opened our first studio, and it just kept on growing.
Watch as an artist brings the prehistoric age back to life.
You study something, it's very exciting. You may publish about it, you may do scientific work, but somehow that's not quite enough.
And we take a look at a performance troupe dancing to a different beat.
The interaction with parents and kids, they're learning from each other, which is really a neat thing.
It's all ahead on this edition of Art Beat Nation. Funding for Art Beat Nation is made possible by contributions to 8 from viewers like you. Thank you. 12 Years a Slave tells the true story of Solomon Northup, a wrongfully enslaved man who fought more than a decade for freedom. The film, which won widespread critical acclaim and the Academy Award for Best Picture in 2014, was made possible by the research of late historian Sue Eakin. We spoke with Eakin's son to learn more about the life and work of this esteemed scholar.
They were abducted from their home country, put aboard ships, and transported as human cargo, heading to America. African slaves were first brought to this country as early as 1619. Between 1716 and 1731, nearly 6,000 Africans came to Louisiana, were sold as personal property, and became the workforce that fueled this state's economy. Finally, in 1808, a new federal law prohibiting the importation of slaves into the United States took effect. But now, because of the high demand for a labor force, merchants engaged in domestic slave trade. By the mid-1800s, New Orleans had become the South's largest slave trading center, with as many as 300 slave dealers in the city. And suppliers for those markets acquired slaves by any means necessary. Solomon Northup, a devoted husband, father, and free man from New York, was one of those captured.
He was lured on the prospect of a job to Washington, D.C., kidnapped, chained, shipped to Louisiana, sold into slavery by Theophilus Freeman in New Orleans, and spent 12 years enslaved near the town of Bunkie today.
After 12 years in bondage in the Louisiana parishes of Rapides and Avoyelles, Northup managed to escape. He returned home to his wife and children, and in 1853 published his story of enslavement and endurance. Northup's book, 12 Years a Slave, became a significant part of the late historian Sue Eakin's life and work.
My mother, interestingly, she grew up where the story took place. Her dad was a small planter on Compromise Plantation. And in 1931, when Mom was 12 years old, she hops in the truck with her dad, and they go to a nearby plantation owned by Dr. Hayes. And they arrive, and Dr. Hayes says to Mom, young lady, you're going to be bored sitting here listening to two old men. Would you like to come in and spend some time in our library and read a book? Dr. Hayes took the book off the library shelf and gave it to Mom, and that became her life's work. Her focus was on Black history and Solomon Northup's story in particular. It was an untold vital history, and Solomon Northup, she felt, was the most compelling vehicle to tell the story of Black history, of the slave era.
Dr. Sue Eakin conducted decades of research and produced an edition of Northup's book in 1968. 40 years later, at the age of 88, with more research and materials in hand, Eakin completed her final definitive edition of the book and the work of her lifetime. Passionate about his mother's work and Northup's story, Frank Eakin recently teamed with famed actor Louis Gossett Jr. to produce an audiobook of 12 Years a Slave.
I was not aware of the story until Frank got in touch with me, and he sent me the book. And I read the book, It was kind of painful read. It got emotional, and I had to take many, many breaks. My voice crackled, and it got light, and we have to do so many pages per day, and it was almost impossible sometimes. And I had to make a major adjustment on being this man, and being in his body and his voice. I can speak of slavery only so far as it came under my own observation, only so far as I have known and experienced it in my own person. My object is to give a candid and truthful statement of facts. He would make us hold up our heads, walk briskly back and forth, while customers would feel our hands and arms and bodies, turn us about, ask us what we could do, make us open our mouths, show our teeth. Solomon Northup was a very responsible, successful, artistic, and ideal husband, man, and businessman, and musician, and artist, which made him so sensitive, which is why it's so touching to be able to play and be that man. So it's a pleasure to play this artist and to know his feelings and how he cared about his children and his wife and his existence and how happy a man he really was. Then to see him subjected to 12 years of that had to be horrific, but he still had the wherewithal to write his memoirs so other people can understand the horrific ordeal that one goes through in slavery. It had to be told. The man, Solomon Northup, never forgot his service to mankind, even when he was a slave. There's a movie out, there's the audiobook, and there's a celebration of a story that nobody might have ever seen if he wasn't the man he was. What a legacy. When Eliza heard Freeman's determination not to part with Emily, she became absolutely frantic. "I will not go without her. They shall not take her from me," she fairly shrieked, her shrieks commingling with the loud and angry voice of Freeman, commanding her to be silent. Freeman, out of patience, tore Emily from her mother by main force, out of the door and into the street. We were quickly hurried. Still, we could hear her calling to her mother. "Come back. Don't leave me. Come back, Mama."
For more information, visit 12yearsaslave.org. In our next segment, we meet a creative duo who have been married for 20 years. The secret to wedded bliss? Art, says the couple. Barbara and Larry Domsky have their own gallery in Las Vegas, Nevada, where they showcase their glass and metalwork collaborations. Let's take a look.
I'm Barbara Domsky.
I'm Larry Domsky. We're at Artistic Lifestyles in Las Vegas. This is our gallery.
We're glass and metal artists in Las Vegas. We're married.
Very much. Still in love with each other. I cherish her more than anything in the world. 20 years, our 20th year is coming up. And on our first date, we went out to Lake Mead and I told her this vision that we were going to get married and we were going to start this business. And she kind of looked at me cross-eyed. But you know, it all came true.
After we got married, we opened our first studio and it just kept on growing. We started really small and thought, wow, this stuff is awesome. Let's do something larger. And we just kept, by trial and error, discovering different ways to work the medium. You know, when we leave at night, it doesn't turn off. We go home and, you know, he'll be thinking about a job, I'll be thinking about a job, and there's conversation that goes on all the time. It has its challenges too sometimes. I mean, because we both have different points of view in working with the medium of glass, but we have an awful lot of respect for each other, not just in our relationship, but as artists, and that really elevates the end process. So this is our studio. This is what the glass looks like, the color looks like. It comes in powder form, or in little chunks. It's called frit.
Well, there's kiln-formed glass. That's what Barb does a lot of.
This is where we make our big panels that are flat that go on the wall. This is where we make our bowls.
Then there's hot glass where we gather out of a furnace.
And then there's hot fusion, which is the process where we marry the two. Some of the shapes will be made from cane, which means we'll be picking up glass and twirling it and getting these designs. We twist it and pull it. Hot glass is a lot more challenging because the glass is moving. You're working with it hot, you're working with heat and gravity the entire time. You cannot stop moving the glass or you'll lose the piece. We have different facets of our work. We have an awards division where we make custom awards and corporate gifts. We have our gallery, and then we do an awful lot of community work. We've got a program for children with cancer. They come in and they do painting and artwork, and it helps them so much financially in the end to get their treatment. Sometimes I think that art is just taking your imagination and expressing it, and we do that through our gallery work. This is called Africa Sky Red. It's based on a photograph that I took in South Africa. I spent a number of years in South Africa backpacking, going through the bush, visiting different tribal lands, and fell in love with the people and the culture. And one of the common threads that I found throughout all of the tribes were their textiles, their blankets. I just fell in love with the concept of creating textiles through glass. Our commissions we take extremely seriously. We are at the Cosmopolitan Hotel at the entrance of Book and Stage. We're represented by the Wynn Hotel. They show and sell our work.
Terminal 3, we have 2 giant installations there.
At McCarran International Airport, in Vegas PBS. McCarran International was the largest by far that we've done to this date. That was a 6-year commission. Each of those sculptures are 90 feet by 19.5 feet. So there was an awful lot that went into it, but it went without a hitch. And it really now has a presence in a place that international travelers by the millions go through every year. I look back at it now and I think, gee, we really had nothing, but you know, I mean, you don't think of it like that when you're starting out. You're excited and you're eager, and the challenges are really refreshing because they give you something to shoot for.
We're best friends, and you know, we work at it every day. We usually get up together, breakfast together, drive to work together, work all day, and then go home and cook dinner. I love creating, and I think art, you know, it's a piece of me that I'm passing on to people.
Just seeing the colors and the pliability of the material, it really excited me. It still excites me. I love it.
Most children go through a phase in which they love dinosaurs, but few go on to make a career drawing them. John Gertsch is a professional artist who has spent his career creating art inspired by the prehistoric age. Travel back in time with us to learn more.
Who are you? We beings from your future are using every method we can devise to bring you into focus and answer this question. We want to know you, to see your face, even to experience the world through your senses. We measure you. We generate long chains of words and numbers in our effort to understand you. When you're a kid and you're interested in something, you do art about it. So I was interested in fossils and dinosaurs. It still makes sense to do that as an adult. You study something, it's very exciting. You may publish about it, you may do scientific work, But somehow that's not quite enough, and to actually give vent to some of the aesthetic feelings that come from the field, which are rich in this case, you have to venture into the realm of art, I think. My name is John Gurche. I'm a paleo artist. My new book is called Shaping Humanity. It's about telling the human evolutionary story with art, especially sculpture, and it focuses mostly on the Smithsonian Project. I did 15 sculptures for a new Hall of Human Origins there. And at first I thought it was going to be sort of a nuts and bolts book about how you reconstruct human ancestors, a little bit about the human evolutionary story and how we chose poses that would match the adaptive character of each species. But it really turned into much more than that, because as I was writing, some riskier, maybe weirder stuff crept into the writing. And it was about the kind of connection that making art like this, or seeing art like this, allows you to make, a connection with human ancestors. And that became sort of a recurrent theme in the book. When you hold an ancient tool in your hand or look at an ancient skull, feeling a connection to these long ago ancestors that only had some of the things we consider human and not others. It's a powerful, powerful thing, and doing this kind of art allows you to make that connection in a big way. The U.S. Postal Service asked me to do this project, working on art for 4 postal stamps. They usually do art that's 5 times the size of the stamp, and then they shrink it down. And I said I wanted to do it 1.5 times the size. So it's very, very slightly larger than the stamps themselves, and they're very, very tiny little pieces of art. But I used very small brushes, and it all came out very well, I think. I did some work for Jurassic Park, the movie. They actually wanted me to develop the dinosaurs more as characters to the extent that I could. The humans are being stalked by the velociraptors inside the visitor center, and in one case they're coming through a library shelf scattering books. I had always seen velociraptors as this kind of foul-smelling, evil chickens with switchblades, you know? Nasty creatures that you don't want to run into. And that was when we only knew about small ones. So everything I did was pretty much in that character. My first job for National Geographic had a sort of charmed existence. It was amazing because I went to them and the art director said, "We're doing something on the March of Extinction, but we're not sure what we want to do." Which I love to hear because I have a lot of ideas. So I get to sort of experiment with mine if they don't know yet. So I said, well, there's this painting I've always wanted to do. And I sort of scribbled it out and described it. And he said, do a drawing of that. And I did a drawing. He said, fantastic, paint it. I painted it. There were no changes. It was done initially for a poster insert. I got a call one day saying it had made the cover. And then it went on to win a gold medal at the Society of Illustrators and other awards. So it was like just a charmed existence. And I thought working for National Geographic is really, really fun. But none of the other projects I've done for them have been as easy since. The Museum of the Earth wanted to do a display of my work, and it's the most comprehensive display that's ever been done. So they asked me to dig deep into the archives, and I have some pretty deep archives, so I had stuff I had done in first grade. Part of the process of reconstructing a human ancestor is really that you get to discover an identity. You're building this thing based on numbers that you've generated, based on dissections and so forth, study of the fossils. But all of those, the cumulative result of all of those decisions gives you a face to look at. It's really the way we humans use faces as kind of identity markers, and it's really like you're discovering who this person is, and that's very exciting. I want to create figures that are both aesthetically compelling and are scientifically based on the best science you can currently get, and make sure that it's something that is going to move people.
If you would like to see more, please visit Gurch.com. In our final segment, a performing arts company invigorates a community by teaching traditional forms of dance to the beat of African and Caribbean music. Its mission? To encourage both adults and children to explore new cultures.
I think that dance and music and the arts in general is the perfect way to teach culture to anybody of any age. It's with our art and with our music and with our dance that we express ourselves individually and culturally. And so it's probably the easiest way for us to gain access to somebody else's culture. Phoenix Drum and Dance Company is a multi-ethnic, multi-generational drum and dance troupe. We specialize in West African and Afro-Caribbean drumming and dance.
One of the things that I think appeals to people who come into Phoenix is that if they are of a different cultural background, different ethnicity, they feel welcome coming here to learn something, to experience something new.
In the neighborhood newsletter, there was a little ad that talked about the drumming class. I walked into the class and sat down on the first day, and pretty much it just clicked for me, and I've been a part of it. It's been a part of me since.
I wanted to start dancing because, well, when I first looked at it with my grandma, it took me to the Sierra 2 Community Center. We looked in the door first, and it looked like it was a lot of fun because it had those flowy skirt thingies, and I love skirts.
It's family-oriented, and I like that because I've had 3 granddaughters that were part of the company. The interaction with parents and kids, they're learning from each other, which is really a neat thing.
Anybody can do it. 4 or 5 classes, you're gonna be out there in a costume, you're gonna be dancing with us, but you're gonna be on stage with us.
Our performance is our culmination of our year's work in class, and also to show what we have done out in the community, and to invite all of our community to come and celebrate with us.
We have found out that the storytelling and the dance and the music, you put them together seamlessly, and they make for a very, very powerful experience.
One would think that it would just be all physical, but it's not. There's a particular thing that happens when everybody's playing something that might be a little bit different, but everybody's playing it right, and it coalesces, and you get into a groove, and it's pretty special when that happens.
I've always loved drums. It's just something very spiritual about it. It's a release for me from all the tension of everyday life. I just go into a different place.
What I love most about dancing is just doing it. You know, the fact that we have live drummers and that we're just dancing, you know, you're giving your all and you're just having a blast and you're sweating and you're just going and going, and it's like you never want to stop.
I think it is so important to include everybody in what we're learning, because African dance and drumming is not just for African people. Celebrate the music, celebrate the culture, celebrate the dance, and show how interconnected we all really are. So much more than just dancing.
If you want to learn more, visit phoenixdrumanddance.com. For more arts and culture, visit azpbs.org/artbeat, where you'll find feature videos and information on the Arizona art scene. Funding for Artbeat Nation is made possible by contributions to 8 from viewers like you. Thank you.